Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Just not
Welcome into Out of the Parks with Jon Marks. I'm your co-host, Sam Stafford, alongside, of course, Jon Marks and the one, the only Maniac Malloy. Don't forget, Maniac, like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe wherever you are. Subscribe to the Parx YouTube channel now, please. And go ahead and you might as well subscribe to Jon Marks YouTube channel while you're at it, too.
Yes. Comment on what you see and what you hear, right? Like we want feedback from
all the
what's going on
mistakes
the show.
we make, all the things we're wrong about. I want to hear about it.
I love it. Okay, so guys, game 3 tonight in Cincinnati. They have one more tomorrow, but they still have a chance to win their third straight series. They've won 7 out of 8. And Jon, since we last talked, this starting rotation has been absolutely lights out going into yesterday. They had a 0.7 ERA. Absolutely unheard of. What has really been so special for them?
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. A lot of people are talking about it. It's the Out of the Parks with Jon Marks, right? I mean, think about it. They didn't lose for a week. They were on a 7-game winning streak. They lose last night, which is, it's going to happen. The starters have been amazing. They really have. Ranger Suarez has been, I know I had said this going into the season, which was, all right, I like Zach Wheeler. I'm not sure if they have a good enough number 2 starter in the rotation. When you get to a playoff series, you need a stopper. You need like Zach Wheeler's your stopper. You need another guy that can stop a losing streak or that can start a big game. And I know that I'm omitting Aaron Nola right here, but Ranger Suarez has shown you that he can be your second best starter, and he probably is your second best starter right now. So Ranger Suarez taking that step as he gets into his later 20s, he's showing you he really knows how to pitch, and having a left-handed starter in the rotation that can be this good, that can balance Zach Wheeler. He's been fantastic. Wheeler's obviously good. Nola's been good. Before last night, Sanchez has been really good. And Spencer Turnbull, again, with his last start, has been fantastic. So really early in the season, when the bats are starting to come alive now, the starting rotation has carried them. And man, it's not sustainable like this for the whole season. When you look at the difference between the Phillies starters ERA and the rest of baseball, it's like a 1.5. It's almost not a real stat when you look at it. Man, it's great to be a Phillies fan right now. And man, pitching has been carrying them so far.
Yeah, you mentioned Wheeler in the top 3 in strikeouts in the league right now. So obviously that's fantastic to have your ace like that. But then Ranger moved his way up in the Cy Young race. He's at 250-1 on the Parx app. So at least when you click on all the candidates, you see him towards the top of it. Yeah. So it's really cool to have 2 Philadelphia Phillies. We talked about it over and over and over to this point. Yeah, we thought having
last week. It's because of our show. It's because of our show. They cut it in half. The odds on Ranger Suarez, he was plus 5,000 last week. This week he's plus 2,500. I mean, let's ride it out. I mean, I don't see anybody being a better 3, in the league. He could be our 2, if he's still pitching in that 3rd slot every week.
Getting these wins. I mean, the wins are so important.
Wins are important.
Yeah.
You help stack it up, but then you look at the ERA, and he's not walking a lot of guys. His games are clean.
Yeah.
I mean, he has been, when you're looking at how does this team win, and I know Maniac Malloy, we talked about this last week where I was kind of being like, well, maybe the division isn't that far off for the
Phillies, baby.
I was wagging my finger at Phillies fans like Malloy that was saying like, come on, man, this team can win the division. I was waving my finger at him saying, relax with the expectations, all right? Now I got to wave the finger at me a little bit because...
For the lack of faith.
Well, I mean, if you look at what this team has done so far, this is how they're going to have to do it, which is like the starters have to, like, teams that win 95 to 100 games have great starting pitching. And right now this team has great starting pitching. And now you're starting to see the bats come alive, which is very exciting.
You did say that obviously a 0.7 ERA is not sustainable for the whole season, but going back to Ranger, how sustainable is it for Ranger to be this good throughout the season?
Well, if you look at the last 2 years, he had a visa problem, if you remember. I think that was 2 years ago. And then he just had an injury, wasn't ready to go. He wasn't starting the season like he wanted to be or normally would be. Didn't have any of these problems this year. And really what you're seeing a starter that was ready to go from the start of the season. And you look at what he has been able to do to start. mean, you love having Zach Wheeler. You love having Ranger Suarez at this point.
It's getting to the point where, you think it's a potential win every time Zach Wheeler gets out there. That's starting to be the feeling that I'm getting every time Ranger takes the mound. I'm feeling like, okay, they should win. They should win this game.
I do want to just say knock on wood. I have to. It's like the Phillies fan in me, but it is very exciting. And JT spoke to Matt Gelb of The Athletic and said, when you've got Ranger throwing against you and he can throw 5 to 6 pitchers on either side of the plate, you're basically up there just hacking. You have no idea what's coming. And he said it's not only Ranger, it's just the whole pitchability is the word that he used for this starting rotation. So that's really exciting and really cool. One thing with the starting rotation, Taiwan Walker coming back supposedly this Sunday with the Padres. Do you think that they move to that 6-man rotation, or with Sanchez's little shaky start last night, does that kind of waver it a little bit?
Well, this now becomes the big first meaty issue of the Phillies this season. And we knew it was coming. We've talked about it the last 2 episodes of what do they do. And Turnbull had another good start. There was a no-hit. He had a no-hit bid going for a while, right?
Yeah.
During his last start. It's very difficult to take him out of the starting rotation based on how everybody's been performing and the Phillies are rolling right now. However, he's going back in the starting rotation, Taiwan Walker, and it's the right move to make. Contractually, he's going to be here, at least for this season. Teams aren't going to trade for a guy that's making $17 million a year, all right, that isn't producing. Also, let's not go crazy on Taiwan Walker and how bad he was last year. His ERA was better than Aaron Nola's. He won a lot of games. So it's not like that he performed poorly last year. By the end of the year, he was out of gas. His velocity was down. I'm not telling you I wanted to see him pitch in the postseason because I didn't. But I think the Phillies, and I believe it's the right move, if they don't go with the 6-man rotation, which honestly, I don't know if they're going to do it or not going to do it. I would ask the starters. I would ask the Philly starters, what do you think about this? Because ultimately, what you don't want to do is screw up what the Philly starters have going right now. So I'm not inclined to go to a 6-man rotation. I think you got to put Turnbull in the bullpen. He was signed to be your long reliever or a reliever, because the thing with Turnbull is if he goes to the bullpen, you're not losing him. He goes to the bullpen, and then he's there in case of an injury. And if Taiwan Walker stinks, you can bring him back in.
Preserves him.
If you put Taiwan Walker in the bullpen right now, I just think it's trouble and it's bad chemistry. Let Walker fail before you take him out of the rotation because of salaries and things like that. I think the Phillies make him a starter, and that's what they should do.
Yeah, they haven't made up their decision necessarily just yet on if they're doing the 5 or 6 man, but they are putting him with him coming back Sunday right between the lefties, Ranger and Sanchez. So that does leave room for Turnbull to go into the bullpen. So we'll see what happens there. Maniac, what do you got?
He's got to throw strikes. That's the thing with him. He gets to have control problems, and that's his biggest thing. And you can kind of tell right away what type of a game he's going to have in the first inning or two. And if he's got control, he does have electric stuff. He's like an overpowering guy, throws hard. He's tough to hit. He's going to get a test in the San Diego Padres on Sunday that have been kind of hanging in there. They're a team that I have it down there later in the show to talk about. They're actually better maybe without Juan Soto, which is like an incredible thing. They got the rookie Jackson Merrill, who's going to be fun to watch this weekend when the Phillies take on the Padres. It's a nice lineup. It's not a Rockies lineup and it's not a White Sox lineup. So it's like a really legitimate test right out of the gate. But the only thing you got to think about is like, it does take these pitchers. I've been finding, especially guys like Blake Snell and even Jordan Montgomery and some of these guys that are kind of getting a late start to the season. It really takes them like a good 1 or 2 starts to really settle in. Plus, he's going to be probably on some sort of a pitch count.
Sure.
I imagine to start his season off. We're going to see what he's got, and we'll see what his control is like. If he's got great control, and maybe he rises to the moment. I mean, he's got to know what's going on. He's pissed off that he didn't get to pitch in the playoffs last year. He's, probably like his ears are perked up that these guys are doing really well, and his position in the starting rotation is on the line.
It is. I think and it's great points, Pat, about pitch count. I would piggyback him with Turnbull.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah, so he gets 3 innings to start. And by the way, I'm not expecting him to be sharp in this in the first outing out there. His velocity's down a little bit. Maybe he's able to regain that. But what I'd heard him say was that he feels like his stuff has more movement on it, especially late movement. So if the velocity's down a little bit, and actually gets back to something with Ranger Suarez, the thing I love about Ranger, he's not relying on velocity.
No.
To pitch, he knows how to pitch,
Mhm.
right? He's got control. If you hit the corners, you don't need to throw 96, 97. You're okay pitching 93, 94. So I know they did that with Sanchez. I know Christopher Sanchez, they said, hey, don't worry as much about the velocity. Worry more about your command. I love that about Ranger. So I'm okay with Walker's velocity being down. But man, he can't be leaving the ball in the middle of the plate, because if you're throwing 91 and you're leaving it down the middle of the plate, there's going to be a lot of home runs off him.
Especially
Absolutely.
when you're coming back against the Padres. And then I just looked it up. He's going to have a test next week too. So these first couple starts, because he'll either be pitching against the Giants or the Blue Jays next week for his second start. So he does have a tough little comeback. So that platoon with Turnbull won't be such a bad idea. But John, you did mention a little bit earlier, the lineup has really been helping this starting rotation, taking worry off of them. And Trey Turner, NL Player of the Week last week.
Man, it wasn't long ago. We were not on the air, but we were talking about, like, do we bring up Trey Turner and his struggle so far? And man, he can help carry this lineup. And I don't think it's any mistake that this lineup has looked a lot better since Turner has looked a lot better. Also, Alec Boehm. I mean,
Bullish on Boone, Johnny Marks.
listen, I'm bullish on Boehm. I wasn't expecting a multi-home run game. By the way, I called a multi-home run game. I just picked the wrong player.
wrong
And there
guy.
were two since you've called that.
I
We
know.
had Schwarber that night hit a multi-home run
Yes,
game, and
yes.
then Boehm on Friday. So
Johnny,
just had
you
the wrong
couldn't hit
player.
water if you fell in a well right now.
But Boehm also has, and it just hasn't been, sometimes when players get hot, they hit a lot of home runs. Like we know Schwarber does that. But Boehm he gets singles, doubles. I
Yeah.
think he had another double last night, even though they stranded the bases loaded with no outs. But Boehm has been really, really good. And with Harper out of the lineup on paternity, where do they go for the cleanup spot? They don't go Castellanos, that's for sure. Alec Boehm. So he has been fantastic. He really has.
I just love how he uses the entire field. You know, he can pull the ball down the line, then the next at bat, hit one deep in the right field corner. And that's just a beauty to watch him at bat. He's truly an artist, as I would say. Like the guys that use
He's a good hitter.
Use the
Yeah.
whole field. And I love that he also will get, quite a handful of those dying quails, like, because he's just on it, just hits off the wrong part of the bat and, hits a little banjo shot right into, shallow outfield. I like those hits. They count just as much as a line drive.
Yep.
Yeah.
Got to have guys that
On
can make
base. Got to
contact.
be on base.
And I'm close personal friends with his parents. Just
Oh,
well, I mean, they may not realize that, but I did hang out with them after whatever game they came. Was it game 1 of the World Series in Houston or game 2? Whatever game they came back and they won World Series 2 years ago. We went to the hotel, the Phillies hotel afterwards, and Boehm's parents were there, and I was hammered. So I
Bumming around with the booms.
I was talking to them, and they enjoyed the conversation. So,
Palling around with the booms,
Yeah,
are you,
yeah,
Johnny?
yeah.
Look at you. You do run in those circles of folks. it
that night I
seems.
did.
That night particularly.
so they'll wrap up with 2 games tonight and tomorrow in Cincy, and then already talked about it. They're going out west this weekend to take on the Padres in this first series. What do you guys have for this weekend?
Man, the ebbs and the flows of a season. You look at where they are right now, and now all of a sudden I'm saying, hey, maybe I shouldn't have been ruling out the division. Maybe this team can win 95 games. So I'm really excited because this is the first test for them. Because like we had mentioned earlier, we know the White Sox stink.
Terrible.
And the Rockies are terrible. And by the way, give the Phillies credit for beating the bad teams, for winning 6 out of 6. I think you said last week, we need all 6 games. And it's like, it's tough to ask a team to beat, even a bad team. It's tough to ask them to win every game. Man, they won every game and they did it in a convincing style. So let's see what they do on the road against some better teams. I'm excited for the test.
Well, now let's not get carried away here. They are going to play the Angels, and they absolutely stink out loud. They
do.
stink out.
Padres don't though.
The Padres, I don't know. I've tried to look it up, the probables. Like if you're going to see Dylan Cease, he's a good pitcher for the
far out.
Padres. I don't know if they don't have it for sure on MLB at bat app if you're going to face him. But Yu Darvish is also another guy that
Who has given the Phillies problems too
Mhm.
over the years.
besides that 483-foot home run that Kyle Schwarber hit off him. But yeah, you're right. They don't perform that well against Yu Darvish. But yeah, you're definitely getting a way better test. And like you got to rise to the occasion and beat these guys. Plus, the Reds are a good team. The Reds are a good
Reds are a
team.
good
You
team.
still have to play 2 games before you look ahead too far. And not to mention How about Ellie De La Cruz last night? That ball that he hit to the opposite way. That guy is. I
one of the
love
league's
him.
top
I
prospects
love
for a
him.
reason.
I
Yeah.
love him. And
I love him too.
His
Mhm.
power, and he can do everything. I know he's made a million errors at shortstop already this season, but that's probably not where he's going to end up playing in a couple of years. But man, it's great that we get to watch him for 2 more games. Hopefully he doesn't sit out tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, these are 2 tough games against a team that's going to be in the hunt, probably down the road. Then you play the Padres, and then you get a little break against the Angels. But you never know with them. Maybe Mike Trout. He's now batting at the leadoff spot again. Started last night. First time in the leadoff spot since 2012. What does he do? He hits a home run.
Sure.
And then you got Logan O'Hoppe too. You're going to face
Yep.
him, the guy you
Revenge
traded for Marsh. But
Maybe
besides,
Marsh is going to have a revenge game
yeah, he's the guy.
in that stadium.
He's my guy. That's the dude that I love.
Don't overlook these teams, especially on the road.
No,
Mhm.
Right. Like, and that's why I look at it. That's why I think it's a good test, because it'd be easy to look at the Angels and be like, we'll beat the Angels. And the 2 more games against the Reds, you lose these next 2 against the Reds, you're going to be feeling great going
No.
to San Diego. So
not at all.
man, it happens quick and you lose it right like that. So enjoy it as a Phillies fan right now, because the long baseball season can be torturous sometimes.
Not to mention they're on the road. That would be the end of the road trip. And it's 10 days of no stops. So, or even more because it was last Thursday. So that all comes into factor. But John, to your point also, they beat the teams that they were supposed to beat since we last talked. And that's one thing that we haven't seen from years past. So I think that's a very big plus going into this season.
Absolutely. I mean, like you got to beat up on them. That there's
Yeah.
no bone. There's the end of story. Period. You got to beat the crap out of the White
Point
Sox,
blank,
and
period.
They did. So let's see if how you do against some good teams now.
Maniac, tell them what they need to do right now.
Like and subscribe, please. Like and subscribe. Bet Parx YouTube channel. Do it.
Okay, so this is a baseball show, but before we look around the MLB, we need to talk about some other things. Sixers coming back tomorrow. They're coming home 0-2. There's been a lot of controversy. So what do you guys have on them so far?
Geez, that was a tough one. Game 2 was a tough one to lose that lead. And by the way, Kate Scott, let's not don't celebrate the win when there's still 30 some seconds left, because that can happen. She said it. I'm like, oh my God, what are you doing? Yeah, that was a tough one. And I think Joel Embiid's reaction after the game really tells you a lot. Like, that is a tough one. And he knows it. That was an opportunity to go, take the home court away from the Knicks. The Knicks aren't a great team. They're hitting big shots. Give them credit for it. The Jalen Brunson front rim up in the air goes in 3-pointer to start out that whole thing. Like, it's almost impossible for that ball to go in. But, I don't think that was an all-time one of the worst losses in franchise history. I know, living in the moment, a lot of people thought that after the game. We did have Toronto and, losing with the year that Toronto won and then went to the finals. We have all those years with the Hawks game with Ben Simmons, where he wouldn't have
wide open under the basket,
shoot it, he wouldn't dunk. We had we gotta go back 40 years, but all the losses to the Celtics and to the Trailblazers and all these other teams, it was bad. So that's a long-winded way of saying I still am not giving up on this team in this series, as they lost the first 2 games on the road, right? This is like they lost the first 2 games on the road. They just need to win in game 3, and they need to get this bad taste out of their mouth. Other guys got to step up. Nick Batum can't bail out the team. It's got to be Maxey and Embiid, but other people have to step up. And Maxey and Embiid played great the other night. It's a shame they lost the game. I'm not waving the white flag yet on the 76ers.
It was the flu game for Tyrese Maxey, and I'm getting kind of sick and tired of the flu game, analogies all the time.
Well,
and anybody's ever sick. Yeah, and you got to win the game, even if you do score 35 points, which is impressive. It'll be nice to have him fully healthy for what it seems in this game 3. The Knicks are a better team. The Sixers have better players. They have 2 superstar guys.
2 player better.
They have 2 guys that are better, but I don't know. You got to be able to crash the boards. You got to figure out the rebounding differential there that they did seemingly kind of do from game 1 to game 2. And, now you got to put your hard hat on and go to work and figure out a way of taking back the momentum. And if you do come out and you stomp on them in game 3 here, you should be on the right track. But I'm not ready to give up. It just seems like Joel Embiid is just not healthy, though. That really sucks. And like you thought maybe you were gonna like going into this. I'm thinking, oh well, he's coming off of the surgery on the knee, but he's gonna be actually healthy for once. And it's just not. It's like the same song and dance. I'm not ready to give up because you can beat the Knicks, but
you sound a little defeated.
I am. I mean, and I'm sure I think everybody is after that loss. I mean, they went on an 8-0 run to lose the game. Like that's something you see in like college basketball. You don't see that in the NBA. And I don't understand I don't even know what the whole grievance baloney is about. Like what is that? What does that even do? Like, does that mean they're going to come out this next game?
The Sixers are actually tied. No, they're tied 1-1 now.
What is the point?
I was going to ask you guys, what is your take on that? The NBA clearly saying, yes, the refs messed up, but it doesn't change anything.
Doesn't change anything to Malloy's to his point. Now the refs are like, all right, maybe we owe the 76ers.
Yeah, you better owe him a couple calls. So there might be the time to bet the 76ers. Just saying.
So game 3, and I'm not going to tell you that the NBA fixes games to make series longer, but certainly when a team comes home and they're down 2-0, they're the home team, and they were just screwed by the refs, and they were screwed. I mean, Nick Nurse clearly called 2 timeouts. There was plays that the foul should have been called. I'm not to blame the refs guy or whatever. The refs did a terrible job in the first 2 games of this series. So I think you're going to have favorable conditions for the 76ers in game 3.
Joel Embiid over on foul free throw shot in the game. He's going to shoot 1 million free throws in game 3.
How about this? And give me my camera right there. Load it up. Game 3 on the Sixers. Load it up.
Yeah.
Over Embiid, over Maxey. I might even think about going over on Tobias Harris.
Wow.
That Parx app. Check out what it is right now. But Sixers, I love the Sixers in game 3.
Yeah, I don't even know if you could bet on free throws, but you got to think that like Joel Embiid is just going to
shoot 25.
Yeah, he's going to shoot 1 million free throws in this game. Let's hope.
So, but I think the reason why, Pat, you sound defeated is you realize this team's not going to the finals. This team doesn't have enough talent to be a finals team. Can they beat the Knicks? Can they extend the series? Like, that's what I'm hoping for. You have Joel Embiid. You have Tyrese Maxey. Oubre has given you squat. Buddy Hield has given you ungats. Nothing. And then when you're relying on a guy like Batum to hit threes, maybe he's not a great shooter. He had a great game that got you into the playoffs in that game. But no one's giving you anything. Tobias Harris stinks. Right? Like Kyle Lowry's giving you everything that he has. And if you're expecting Kyle Lowry to give you anything else, like this is what he is at this point. He's in the last stage of his career and he's like giving everything that he has and he contributes.
Yeah. You look at the squad that they put on the floor with Embiid and Maxey, and you're like, okay, Nico Batum, an old ass Kyle Lowry, and Tobias and
Oubre,
who like just got 4 points. Like, it'll be very interesting to see what this team looks like coming into next season, having all the money that they have, Tobias being out of the picture. At one point I was thinking to myself when they were rolling pretty well, good in the regular season prior to Embiid's injury, I was like, I kind of like this just 2-man game of Maxey and Embiid, but then you get to the playoffs and it's like, man, most of these teams have a clear third guy and the Sixers just don't really have that. And what did Daryl Morey do? Not much.
Well, buddy,
it would have been nice to actually have, and I'm not a huge Pat Beverly fan, but it would have been nice to have him for this series because you need a little bit of toughness against the Knicks because they're scrappy. Yeah. They're scrappy as hell. It would have been nice to have him versus Buddy Hield, who's giving you absolutely nothing.
Yeah, and you need Buddy Hield in one of these games too. He's a 3-point shooter. How about shooting and making some 3-pointers?
Yeah, come on.
Like, let me see a 6 of 8 night. Let me see a 5 of 9. It also it frees up Embiid. When they're not hitting their shots, now they can just crash down on Embiid, and then they worry about Maxey and Embiid. They don't have to worry about anybody else. So Hield needs to step up. And here's good news for 76ers fans. For the most part, your role players perform much better at home than on the road. So if you're looking for a breakout Buddy Hield night, game 3 over on Buddy.
No, I can't.
Bet Parx.
Go over on Batum. Boom, boom, Batum again.
Boom, boom.
He looks locked in. Old man Rivers.
All right, I'm tomorrow morning when I wake up, I'm going right to the Bet Parx app, and I'm overing everything.
I love it. Okay, good.
Enough of
for
the
everybody
Sixers
at home. But NFL draft is for tomorrow, and everybody watching this, just for the sake of cutting this tomorrow, NFL draft is tonight. The Eagles have pick number 22. Are they going to trade up, trade down, stay where they are? What do you guys think?
I heard Daniel Jeremiah tell John Clark on his podcast today that there's a 0% chance that that Howie Roseman is staying at 22. Now, I'm not going to tell you that.
Wow.
I'm not going to tell you there's a 0% chance that Howie Roseman's not trading up or trading back. However, Daniel Jeremiah has told me the exact same thing the last 2 years, that they will make significant trades, or they will trade up and they will trade back. So I think, and you got to remember that the Eagles have 2 second-round draft picks this year, so they do have some ammunition to where they can trade up. So if there is a player that is available, maybe in the early teens, it's an edge rusher, it's an offensive lineman, I think that's where you see Howie Roseman use that second-round draft pick, jump up, and take a player that maybe has slid a little bit. You're going to get the quarterbacks. You're going to get so many offensive players that are taken in the top 10. Means those defensive players are going to slide. And you know the Eagles value edge rushers. And really, they could use an offensive lineman as well, a tackle, a guard, a guy with some versatility. So I believe they trade up. If they trade back, and this will be interesting, I think that's where you get a corner. I can't see them trading up and getting a corner because there's not really guys that are being picked to go there. So trade back corner, trade up offensive lineman, defensive lineman, stay put. They haven't done well drafting in that
22 range.
In that 22 range in a long time. So,
and Howie knows that, and he maybe that's why it is like a 0% chance that they're not going to move in some capacity, because his track record in the 20s is pretty bad. I do think that if you are going to trade up, you've got to go defense. How many guys do you have on the Eagles defense right now that you can actually count on? Bryce Huff, maybe Darius Slay.
I don't know if you can count on Bryce Huff. I don't know if you can count on Bryce Huff year one.
Count on who else? Who else can you count? I mean,
well, you need
some of the linebackers that you signed. Devin White, like he was one of the worst rated Pro Football Focus guys. You got Jalen Carter, obviously, but he really ran out of gas down the season.
You need to replace.
Everybody's talking about offensive line. Everybody keeps talking about offensive line, and now you have 12 corners right at this moment. You have 12 freaking corners on the Eagles roster right now. Maybe Isaiah Rodgers could be the answer. Maybe one more year, Darius Slay, and you're going to bring Bradbury in for some capacity. I think you got to trade up, and I think you got to go get a defensive player. I actually disagree with you, John. I think that they should trade up and just get a cornerback. Go for it. Get Kool-Aid.
I just don't think they're going to do it.
So there is a few speculations that they're going to trade up to like 15, 16 and get Terrion Arnold from Alabama.
Arnold, Alabama. He's great.
Yeah, so it wouldn't be terrible, but
I heard today, and this is the guy that I want, Mr. Brock Bowers out of the University of Georgia. I mean, that guy was by far like one of the most electric elite players in college football last year. He's an SEC guy.
You're trading up to get a tight end?
I am.
So you're using your second round draft pick.
Yep.
So now you're leaving the first 2 days of the draft with a tight end and then another pick.
The next Travis Kelce.
So we talked briefly on this, though. The only problem with this is, yes, he's going to be a potential generational talent. So it sounds good in that fact. But with the Eagles and all the weapons that they have on this team, yes, Dallas Goedert's running out of time on his contract, but it's almost like he just holds the mold there. They kind of use him when they need to. He plays his role. They don't need them to be a power tight end like Brock Bowers.
It's not the offense. I mean,
but you do need also a third wide receiver. You absolutely do. That was a big hole last season with Zacchaeus, Quez Watkins, absolutely giving you nothing. And then like the offense having trouble even moving the ball. If you have a third weapon, a dude that you can actually throw the ball to, they can actually get open and give you something.
Are they going to throw it to him though?
I mean, I know they don't have enough footballs to go around with all these guys on the squad, and now with Saquon also, and you got to give Goddard his touches. But like you do need somebody. Somebody.
It seems like if they were able to get Brock Bowers, no one the next day would be like, "Oh man, where are they getting Brock Bowers?" Like you said, he's a generational type prospect. We'll see. I think it's far more likely that you talked about the defense. And you need playmakers on this defense. You need you look at I watched the Ravens last year. You look at that Chiefs defense. Man, they have guys that can play, right? So the Eagles need more of those players.
I agree with you on that one. Real quick though, I lost my train of thought real quick.
Reggie
But it
Bush.
was Kellen Moore. Okay, so who was the tight end when he was with the Cowboys? Who did he have? Would that even fit his type of style of offense?
Dalton Schultz. And then
he might have had the end of Jason Witten, but no, because he went to the Raiders.
No, Dalton Schultz, who went to Houston this past year, had a terrible season, and then they have the big dude now that dates the Cavender twin girl,
Ferguson.
Oh, yeah, Ferguson.
Jake Ferguson, and he's
good.
Good.
Oh, he's good. He's good.
Yes,
he's nice for me in fantasy.
Yeah,
then Bowers would fit that role perfectly.
So that is something that also they take into consideration is the new offensive coordinator and what kind of style that he wants to bring to this offense. And then another fun topic, Reggie Bush getting his Heisman Trophy back from 2005.
Very interesting.
What are your guys' takes on that?
I'm happy. He deserves it, right?
I agree.
It's one thing to take a Heisman because the guy was on steroids or was cheating or something like that. It's another because his family was given benefits, money, house, or whatever for him going to USC. Guess what, everybody?
It happened.
But he just got caught.
Yeah.
It happens all over, and it doesn't. I'm not saying that it makes it right when he did it back there. I don't care. But the fact that now in the snap of a finger, it becomes legal, and now they're able to make money off it. And it totally changed college sports to where now every player essentially is on a 1-year contract. You look at these players transferring. Like, I'm glad he's getting the Heisman back. He deserved to win the Heisman Trophy. He was an amazing college player. So he won the Heisman. Give him the damn thing back. I'm happy.
The damage is done. You got banned. USC, who was an absolute juggernaut college football program at the time, got banned from playing in bowls for 2 seasons because of this. Reggie Bush was quoted as saying in 2020 that this was the closest it felt like as to dying without actually dying, going through the whole process. When he was asked about it 3-4 years ago, what was it like living through this nightmare? It's bullshit. It is total bullshit. And I don't know. I mean, this would make it right. Like, I'm sure it kind of clears his name a little bit, but man, you got to be able to I don't know. I mean, how else do you get comp? Does he have like a suit? Like you could sue now? I don't know.
His reputation, to your point, will always be tarnished.
Yeah, and probably just people always been like hammering him as a cheater or whatever they want to call it, or like all the just ridiculing he's had to go through the whole thing is like.
Well, OJ didn't have his Heisman taken; he had to sell it.
Yeah,
because of a lawsuit. If OJ can keep his Heisman, or at least they don't take it away from him, Reggie Bush should be able to keep his Heisman. So I'm glad that he's back.
Yeah, the damage is done.
For future generations, you're right, you can't repair it, but future generations, at least till now, be listed on that Heisman list when you go back. So
they should name the trophy after him.
Heisman Bush Trophy.
And give the Reggie Bush Heisman Trophy.
Give Johnny.
That's the only way I think you can make it right, maybe.
Well, I mean, giving it back to him is going to help. And give Johnny Manziel credit because he had come out and he was very public about this. It said, I'm not going to any Heisman ceremonies, and I'm going to encourage other Heisman winners not to go either until they fix this.
There you go.
I mean, come on. How many? Let's be honest with ourselves. How many of these Heisman winners didn't receive some type of improper benefit?
Did you watch the Johnny Manziel doc? He basically told you that he was going to Miami and just getting money 24/7. So, definitely a lot has changed. But props to Reggie too for getting called out on that and knowing there were so many other players at that time that were illegally profiting and not ratting on them just to.
I think he handled it great. To your point, I really do.
Okay, so. Maniac, tell them what to do right now.
Like and subscribe. Bet Parx YouTube channel. Jon Marks YouTube channel now. Like and subscribe.
Now, do you have Malloy has some Sour Patch Kids over there. Do you have it in like a dip in your mouth? Why do you keep an open bag of Sour Patch Kids?
Well, these are for when I'm coaching first base for the Lenape Valley Tomahawks travel team and the Lenape Valley in-house Mariners team. If you get on base, you get candy. And I found this candy left over in my pocket this morning, exchanged it into my jeans this morning because I thought I might need a little extra boost today. I was riding the exerciser horse down in the jockey's room to get the day started, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to need a little extra kick, and this sugary stuff right here does the treat. So that's why I'm packing right now.
Let's go.
Packing. I love it. Okay, so moving on to MLB news.
I'm going to get some right now. Go ahead.
Aaron Boone ejected because a fan behind the dugout was yelling at the umpire. And even after supposedly the umpire, he was like, it wasn't me. The ump still said, I don't care, you're out. How ridiculous is that?
It's ridiculous. And this is where you should, when I say you should be able to replay whatever you want in sports, you should be able to have replay on anything that you want in sports. It'd be very easy to take that camera angle and say, all right, like he clearly wasn't saying anything based on when he was thrown out or whatever. I mean, listen, he thought that Aaron Boone was yelling it, but he got tossed. Hey, you know how you solve this? And you're over there. I can't wait to hear what you have to say, Maniac Malloy. Here's how you solve this right now. Here's how you solve it. It's called ABS, automated balls and strikes. You don't need these umpires back there anymore. They can't handle the job. They can't. The problem is when you're watching any TV broadcast, they have the strike zone in the picture. So now you know what's a strike and what's not a strike. And you know what you know now? That the umpires miss calls all the time, badly. Do you know how you eliminate that? I can't wait for the quote-unquote robot ump or the ABS system. It eliminates all of this, and then there's no arguing with the umpire. So that's what I'm looking forward to, because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, Maniac Malloy, that it's coming.
So that'll never happen, John, number one. They're never going to get rid of umpires in the game because of the human element. And yeah, it is a good part of it. One thing I'll say about this, with the strike zone thing, I really, really hate it, and you can look this up. There are certain stadiums where that camera that you're watching, it's off to the right, or maybe mostly
not dead
to the
on
right.
center.
It's not dead on center. And I don't know how they adjust the strike zone for each and every player. It almost looks like it's the same for every player, though. Like, are they? Is that white box adjusting to each and every?
Alec Boehm should have a different box than
Johan Rojas,
right,
or Whit Merrifield. Like, is that just for show? I like watching college baseball games that don't have the strike zone. I would like to see how many balls and strikes you can get right without that little box, too. Now, what I do think will happen
He's
is
umping from home, watching the game.
Now, what I do think is going to absolutely happen is what you're seeing happening at the minor league level, which is exactly what happened with the pitch clock. You're going to be allowed to eventually challenge plays, and it takes about 30 seconds. If a ball, they have the ABS, and if you say ump rings you up on strike 3 and you're like, no, that was out of the strike zone, I like to challenge. And you get a certain amount of challenges a game. They throw it up on the big board and they show where the ball crossed and whether or not it's a strike or not. That's probably where you're going to see this eventually go. And after that, I don't think it's going to change much more than that. You're always going to have umpires involved in the game.
My problem with that, though, the automated strike zone, is just the fact that it takes away, and yes, I'm saying this, I married a catcher, so it takes away from the beauty of catching. Like,
the framing of a pitch.
Yes, the framing and receiving and all that. I mean, maybe it'll help catchers in the future focus more on their offense, but I just
it's an art. It's an art.
Yeah. And I mean, JT is beautiful at it, one of the best in the league. So it just takes away some of that beauty of baseball.
And they do get the calls right if you do challenge. You know, like if a guy is a bang play at first and you mess it up, they challenge it.
So also, since Sam noted that she married a catcher, Malloy's also an umpire, just so everybody realizes.
When he talked about watching college baseball at home, he's in his whole uniform outfit, just
sitting there with my mask on.
He is. Yeah. So I'm not asking that they eliminate the home plate umpire. He's just being told whether or not it's a strike or a ball.
Yeah.
And by the way, just so everybody knows, I'm old school. I resisted the DH as long as I could. It takes away the strategy, everything, like an American League manager forever could fall asleep during a game. It didn't matter. Now that comes to the National League, like there was a real art to managing in the National League before, and it could really hurt you if you made mistakes. But after a while, you realize that it's coming and you have to embrace it.
Yeah.
Right. So embrace that the ABS is coming.
I will embrace the challenge system is going to be what happens.
Definitely beneficial.
The challenge system will be what happens, but regular umpires will remain.
And these umpires stink. I don't care what you say. These major league umpires are the worst.
Some of them do stink.
Hernandez, what are you talking about? The greatest umpire.
Yeah, like,
and it's great. It's great stuff to talk about. It like I like it that it adds the it adds a little parody in there.
I like arguing about umpires and things like that.
Sure.
So I'm with you guys. I like the human element of it, but I think it's one of these things where when you don't have the human element anymore, you're like, oh, wow, this is actually cool. It's a strike.
You'll learn.
We know it.
Right. I'm not sure, like I was saying, about that zone and about the way the camera is off center. Like
Veterans Stadium was like that. Veterans Stadium was not dead on in center field. It was off to right center a little bit.
Yeah, like I just don't know if I would like even trust that.
Well, here's what you
technology better be like.
Here's what you can do. Move the freaking camera in the Parx that it's not dead on in center field. They'll figure it out.
Maniac, you've been looking around the teams and a league, and some teams have been catching your eye.
Yeah, Cleveland Guardians 17-6. Obviously, they've played a bunch of no-name teams. They've got a lot of games against the White Sox under the belt, the Twins, but they're kind of a surprise at 17-6. We'll see if they're contenders in some sort of a variety this weekend. They take on the Braves. They got the best record in the MLB. I think it's time to fade the Cleveland Guardians this weekend when they take on Atlanta. They haven't really had a hard schedule. The Padres, another team, I said it earlier, they're a better team without Soto. Really makes no sense at all, but they are in the hunt. They've won series recently this April, in the past 3 weeks against the Dodgers, the Brewers, the Cubs, which are all good teams. Phillies have to face them on the road. We'll see what happens. Dodgers 14-11 right now. Shohei Ohtani seemingly starting to like heat up a little bit. Hit a 450-foot absolute nuke. 118.7 miles per hour, hardest hit ball of the season last night. But a kind of sluggish start. I'm going to ask you, John, more staggering, the Dodgers' slow start or the fact that the New York Mets are actually kind of right in the hunt right now with the Phillies and the Braves?
Mets.
The Mets, it's a very much of a shock.
Yeah, I mean, it's early. The Dodgers, it may take some time to get going there. When Ohtani hits a ball, it sounds different than almost anybody else that I've ever heard. It sounds like he's hitting it with a tree.
I can't wait for
not
the
to
Phillies
mention
to
when he's
there.
on the mound.
Oh my God, he really is. You tune in for games like De La Cruz, who I love as well, and Shohei Ohtani for sure.
I have a question though with the whole Soto aspect. So just thinking about how the team has gotten better without him, with that talent, you have to think, is there something in the locker room with him? But then you're not seeing that transition to the Yankees. What do you attribute it to?
Yeah, I think sometimes it's addition by subtraction, right? You have a clubhouse. I mean, you actually saw it with Tatis. The Padres were better with Tatis suspended for steroids than when he came back, right? Like they made a playoff run that year. They lost to the Phillies in the NLCS. So like I always believe, and this is not only in baseball, this is really in all sports. If you have too many star players, or you have, let's talk about a starting five in basketball, right? If you have guys that all want to take 15 or 20 shots a game, if you have guys that want their points, I want a nicely balanced team that guys are okay batting seventh. Guys are okay with moving a runner along, as opposed to a Juan Soto who realizes like he's a prolific offensive player. And you don't need that many great players on the team. And the Yankees are kind of the exact opposite. Like they almost need every great player that's possible. So
it's like how everybody's always said about baseball. It's truly a team sport. You can't have one superstar carry you over. And we saw it with the Angels. You saw Shohei and Mike Trout, and it still wasn't enough.
And so if things are off in the clubhouse, things normally that translates to the field.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's personalities, I mean, Manny Machado has been talked about. There was something written about him after the season last year to where he just sucks so much oxygen, and his treatment is so much different than the other players. You don't even maybe realize it as a player, but it rubs you the wrong way and it hurts the chemistry on the team.
Great point. Okay, so John, now we're moving to rapid fire. So we're getting your quick takes on things that we've already kind of talked about. So John, how huge has this Phillies 7-1 run been?
Well, I mean, it's been great. Obviously winning 7 in a row for the Phillies to get them, they were kind of teetering on 500, right around 500, but I'll even go more specific on why it's so great for the Phillies. Johan Rojas, he raised his point during the homestand. He raised his batting average over 100 points. So I believe we were here last week, and Maniac Malloy posted the clip from it last night. We were still doing is it going to be Rojas? Is it going to be Pache? Who's going to be the starting center fielder May 1st, June 1st? And he still needs to continue to do it. But Rojas really has started to look more comfortable at the plate. And as a Philly fan, and you're looking for answers on who's going to be out there every day, he hasn't looked clueless. he seems like he's going up there with a better approach, and he's much more comfortable. So it's obviously big for the Phillies, but Rojas has looked really good, and I think that's big for him.
He didn't play last night, but he is on a 4-game hit streak, so that's something to watch out for. How likely is it that the Phillies move to a 6-man rotation instead of moving Turnbull to the bullpen?
I don't believe that they're going to go with a 6-man rotation. A lot of times because of injuries, and maybe they look at Zach Wheeler and they say, hey, he could use an extra day off. So it's nice to have somebody that can start. But the way that these guys are pitching right now, even with taking one of the pitchers out of the rotation, the last thing I want to do is mess with what's working right now, and that's this starting 5. So you're going to put Taiwan Walker in there. I would not add a 6th starting pitcher. Unfortunately, Turnbull has pitched very well. He's going to probably have to go to the bullpen and be the long man. He may be back. I'm not telling you that I would give Taiwan Walker free reign and he gets 2 months to try to figure things out, but I don't believe they're going to go to a 6-man rotation. I think Taiwan Walker is going to come in and Turnbull's going to go to the bullpen.
This starting rotation has been absolutely lights out. How long can this last?
Man, it can't last forever. It's been amazing. And when you look at where this team is, and I talked about this a little bit earlier, but when you're looking ahead to the season, you're saying, okay, how many wins can the Phillies get? Can they get to 95? Can they compete for the division? With this starting pitching, even not pitching to the same scale that they're pitching right now, which would be impossible to do, but with Ranger being a true number 2 and Zach Wheeler being Zach Wheeler, and then the rest of the guys just kind of being 3, 4, and 5, man, so they can continue this, not at this pace maybe, but can they continue to be the best starting staff in the National League? Absolutely.
The lineup's heated up as well. What's been that key factor to get them going?
Man, I mean, Boone has been excellent. Really, when you look at it, Schwarber's kind of been what Schwarber does. Trey Turner is the player of the week in the National League for a reason. And you look at what he's been able to do, where, first couple of weeks of the season, it's like, all right, like, are we going to see Trey Turner from August? Or are we going to see Trey Turner for the first half of last season? And you're seeing a very comfortable Trey Turner at the plate right now. He's cleaned up the defense a little bit, and he's really performing well at the plate. He's carrying him right now offensively. So I think that you're going to see the Phillies bats continue to heat up as we get into the warmer weather.
Maniac, tell them what to do.
Like and subscribe. Bet Parx YouTube and Jon Marks YouTube channels now.
Yes.
Do it.
Okay, moving on. Jon Marks bets. So we talked about it. They're going out to San Diego this weekend. It's time to go out of the Parx with Jon Marks. Who you taking to go long?
Well, I mean, the last time that and you mentioned it earlier, Pat, with Schwarber. you Darvish and Schwarber, how can you not at least place a courtesy bet?
Romanticize it
on Schwarber going deep, and I would even do it in a you Darvish game.
Yeah,
why not? Look at some of the numbers. I also like I kind of like some unders in these games. It's a big ballpark, and they're a very good team. And I'm just telling you, it's very difficult to travel from the East Coast to the West Coast and then just boom, get right back on there. So look game 1 of that series, look at the pitching matchups or whatever, but I would look in at least the first 2 games of the series that may be taking the under on the run line there.
Not going to go with the old dad strength coming from our boy.
Bryce having his third,
Harper.
number 3 having his third.
When's he back?
Thursday.
He's back Thursday.
Could be a home run for the new baby. I'm just saying.
Well,
also, another one to think about, another guy that's been on the paternity list, Manny Machado. I don't know if he's going to be back for this weekend or not. Could be the double dad duty, Machado and Harper.
So they signed together.
Yep, I was going to say.
They have babies together.
Yeah.
Not with each other, of course. It's separate. But
not visiting.
I didn't think about the Harper factor. And to your point, if there's anybody that will do that and pull that off and want to pull that off, it's Bryce Harper.
There you go.
Yeah, that's really fun.
I think we didn't even really talk about it. It's kind of huge that he gets the time off for the paternity leave because he has been, the back
a little
issue.
rest.
Maybe this is good. Maybe this is good. Could be in time for something. All right. And as always on Wednesdays, we have a 25% live profit boost for you. Make sure you take advantage of that. 1:00 games today, Wednesday. They got them going on. Afternoon baseball. Love to use a 25% live bet. Maybe take a look tonight. Phillies in a bounce back. See how they do. First inning, they go down 1-2-3. Throw some shekels on the Phillies to come back and win the ball game.
Are you
that might be the
keeping
move.
Rojas to have a hit? Maybe. Go to 5 games.
Absolutely not. I would not. I'd rather take my money and bet it on one of those 50-1 shots downstairs running than do that. And always happy hour boost. We'll be back with something. We're cooking it up. Check it out Friday. Me and John, the Marks and the Maniac happy hour odds boost. Check us out. We'll talk to you all about it. Be on the lookout for that later this week.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then we did not have any questions submitted this week, so make sure that you guys are sending them to us at BetParx on social media, at Sam Staff, at Jon Marks Media, at Maniac Malloy, anywhere, and we'll put them in the show. So if you want to be featured, send us your questions. We're always here to answer them.
Or we'll just take the worst, meanest comment that you can write, and we'll use that. I was thinking about doing that from the post that Sam put up last night. There were some funny ones. So, yeah, we'll take those and keep
mean
them coming.
Comments.
Yeah, just say the meanest thing you could possibly say. I have thick skin. I can take it. Whatever you want to say it. We just want to hear from you.
Are they mean to you specifically? I didn't see.
No.
It was more so because we posted it after Rojas has been on his hit streak.
Yes,
and then Christian
what the hell
Pache,
kind of question is this? I think somebody wrote. I thought that was pretty funny.
Well, but I put out there that just for reference that this was a week ago.
Yes.
But you know what? It got people to comment.
It did. And I think it was how I phrased the question too, because I said, when will we know if Christian Pache is the center fielder? And that was just because they didn't watch the show clearly, because this guy over here liked Pache.
I still do.
So that's why I phrased it that way. But
yes, and get involved in the comments.
Get involved.
Get involved in the comments, whether it's on YouTube. We put posts up, so you got to follow BetParx. We put posts up. Comment on that. We'll put some snippets from the show or whatever. So get involved.
Get involved. Out of the Parx with Jon Marks.
Get involved. And Maniac, what else?
Like and subscribe right now. Do it, please. Mom, Dad, anybody watching right now, like and subscribe.
You can enlist your family to do it.
Yes.
We don't care.
Yes.
We just want the numbers.
We just want the numbers.
Send
Let's
it to
go.
everybody. Put it in the family group chat right there.
Exactly. Send it to your mom. Send it to your cousins. Send it to your sister, your brother, your mother, anybody.
I love it. We'll create a little song next time for you guys. But thanks for tuning in to episode number 4 of Out of the Parx with Jon Marks. We'll be back next Wednesday for episode 5.
Play that rock music.
It fits you,
acapella.
Oh boy, yeah.
I could see you on the back of a motorcycle listening to that.
Yeah,
waving the mullet.
I've never ridden a horse. I've never ridden a motorcycle.
Wow, that's actually
Am I really even a maniac?
You are.